you want to say to these young girls? What do you want to say? Hi everybody, I'm TJ, this is Baby Star. I've literally just walked in the door, turned on my phone camera and just started making this video without any planning because I was just feeling so passionate that I have to get this message out right now. So basically what happened was a few minutes ago I was down at the local shops and I had a chat with a young woman who was serving me because she saw my little baby and she asked about it. We were chatting about kids, do you want to have kids? And she said to me, yes, I do want to have kids and so does my partner, but I'm just not ready yet. You know, I'm only 32, there's so many things I want to do, but I know the clock is ticking, I don't really know what to do. And I just straight away, just out of my mouth came, you should freeze your eggs. You should just freeze your eggs. And she just looked at me like, oh, I've never thought of that. I didn't really know that was an option. I'm gonna go look into that. And it just made me so passionate, I had to drive straight home from the shop. And just say this to all the women out there who are in your late 20s, early 30s, if you're in that same situation and you know deep down that you're probably gonna wanna have kids one day, you're not ready yet, and you're under 35, I really suggest you freeze your eggs. I really suggest you freeze your eggs. And I say that doubly for those of you who are single. In this modern era of Tinder dating, emotional unavailability, commitment phobia, lots of people just miss out. They just don't meet a person in time. I mean, I'm an example of that. I was 46 and a half and I still hadn't met that person to have a child with, and so I did it by myself, but I had run out of time to use my own eggs and I had to use a donor egg, and it turned out to be incredible. She's the most beautiful baby. I don't know if you could see her. I'm standing up and holding her. She's the most divine angel, and I'm very, very lucky that it worked. It doesn't always work. I had her at the age of 48. I'm very lucky. And I've got a lot of friends who missed out on having kids because they didn't freeze their eggs when they were younger and they kept waiting to meet the partner, and then they ran out of time and they weren't willing to use a donor egg, or they couldn't afford it. It's very expensive to use a donor egg, or they just felt so sad that they couldn't use their own genetics that they didn't want to do it with a donor egg, or they just kept waiting for the person and then completely ran out of time. Freeze your eggs, freeze your eggs. And so I just really passionately want to encourage you to at least look into it. At least look into it. Because you really are buying yourself time. And yes, it is expensive to freeze your eggs. It's going to cost you money. It might cost you anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 here in Australia. I can't speak for other countries, but it's not cheap. You're essentially doing an IVF cycle. And that's probably not going to be covered by Medicare. If there's a medical reason for you doing the IVF, like you have some sort of issues with your eggs or your ovarian quality, then you probably will get a lot of it back on Medicare in Australia. I can't speak for other countries. But if you're just doing it because you're young and you're wanting to ensure that down the track you'll have some eggs, then it's probably not going to get any Medicare. But you know what? It's worth the money. Let's say it costs you, I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000. What else might you spend that money on? Now, I'm not talking about someone living on the poverty line. This is a different issue. But for someone who has some money, who goes out to cafes and restaurants, maybe you buy yourself clothes, maybe every now and then you upgrade to a new car or you go on holiday, just put some of that money into this. You know, don't buy a few dresses over the next year. Don't buy that new car. Don't go on holidays over the next year, or don't go to the theatre as much over the next year, and save that money and use it to freeze your eggs. Please, freeze your eggs. Because let's face it, egg quality does decline, and I did not really get that. I did not know that. I wish I had understood that. I would have frozen my eggs in my early 30s. I don't really want to say that because I'm so glad I have this little munchkin and don't want to have a different baby, but let's say I hadn't been successful. This could have easily not worked with this baby. It was a total miracle she was born. I could have easily missed out leaving it to the age I did. And I would have been much better off to freeze my eggs early, and then I wouldn't have had the stress of having to grieve my own genetics and having to, you know, find donor eggs and pay all that money for donor eggs and take all those risks. So, you know, if you can, freeze your eggs, because the reality is, look at these statistics I'm going to stick up for the percentage of your eggs that are going to be abnormal. I mean, it just gets dramatically worse. It's just the reality. And your chances of an IVF round being successful get lower and lower. Your chances of Your chances of falling pregnant naturally get lower and lower. Let's say you meet that man and let's say you're ready and you've got your life together and you're feeling ready and you're now 42. It could be a really, really big struggle to get pregnant, and you may end up having to do IVF repeatedly, and it may end up costing you way more than the cost of one cycle of freezing your eggs when you were 30 or 28. If you're watching this and you're under 35 and you think you might one day want to have a baby, but either you're not ready yet now with your partner or you're single and you haven't met that partner, I just really, really encourage you to look into freezing your eggs, find out how much it's going to cost, figure out how you can save that money up or borrow that money. You might even be able to borrow that money from family. Like, let's say you asked your parents. They might be happy to give you that money because it's something that might ensure they one day have grandchildren, you know? They might not give you money to get your hair done or buy new clothes or go traveling, but they might give you money for something this important. Or maybe you have someone else in your life you can borrow it from. Or maybe you can just take on another job and save up a bit of money. Honestly, it's one of the best insurance policies you can get for yourself if you're in that situation. Of being in your early 30s and being single, or being in your early 30s like the girl I met today who's got a partner but isn't ready for it. And if you end up falling pregnant a few years later naturally and you don't use those eggs, you might be able to donate them to someone like me, you know, someone like me. I had this baby through a donated egg. And I'm very, very grateful. And there'll be lots of women out there who will be very, very grateful to receive your donated egg one day. Or you might donate it to science. Either way, whether you use it yourself or someone else gets to use it as a spectacular gift, I just feel that in this modern age where so many people are leaving getting pregnant so late, and where so many people are struggling to find a partner and settle down for a relationship, we're in such an era of divorces and commitment phobia and swipe, 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 there's always something better. It's just not as easy to settle down with someone these days as it used to be. I just really want to recommend you look into it, consider it, think about it, and I just had to get that off my chest because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Seeing the look of surprise and possibility on that girl's face when I told her about this, because she'd never really thought about it, she hadn't really heard of it. Not everybody has, I hadn't, I didn't hear about it in time. So I'm putting this out there, pass it on to everyone you know who's in their early 30s or late 20s who you think might one day want a baby, and who's currently single or who's currently really not feeling ready. Just tell them to watch this. And if anyone else has been in this situation where you've frozen your eggs in your 20s or early 30s and you want to encourage other people to do it, please leave that in the comments to support what I'm saying. Or if you're someone who had to go through IVF at a later age and really wishes you'd frozen some eggs in your late 20s, early 30s, because trying to use your 40-something eggs was really, really difficult and expensive and exhausting and debilitating, leave that in the comments. Share your experiences, because I just want to get this message out to young women everywhere. Honestly, I wish someone had told it to me. All right, that's us. Gotta go put this baby down. Gotta go give her some milky now. All right, guys, see you soon. Bye.